doctrine of discovery issues, and they're going to be represented by Libby Kumu, who's going to address us today. Their work.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here at the Onondaga Nation. I had the great honor of meeting Chief Warren Lyons just 2 days ago in New York, and so inspiring to have that opportunity, and also to meet Tanya and to see her present their intervention on Thursday. I bring greetings from the Loretto community. We began near the birthplace and near the time of the birth of Abraham Lincoln in Kentucky. 3 young, poor women feeling drawn to teaching poor children, and the whole community they grew up in was Catholic, so they turned to their priest and created a Catholic religious organization of women. That group has evolved over the years, and around the mantra, if you will, of we work for justice and act for peace because the gospel urges us. That's our focus. That focus has sometimes gotten us in trouble with the church hierarchy, and we continue. I'm one of the co-members of the organization. Co-members are not required to be practicing Catholics. They are expected to align themselves with we work for justice and act for peace because the gospel urges us. I have friends here, Sally Dunn, if you would stand up. She staffs the UN NGO office of our community. Sandra Harold works in the Denver staff office on matters of internal community. Teresa Kubasek and her husband Gabe are co-members and have spent many years of their lives working with the people of Iraq and Syria in their home country. So I have 10 minutes. I'm going to tell you a really short story. I convened a water forum in Denver called the Downstream Neighbor, January of 2012. We were happy to be introducing the idea of the rights of nature to people in Colorado who live under a Western water law regime where you own the water, or you own the use of the water, but you might as well own the water the way it's practiced. There's a huge business in water sales and so forth. So along about Saturday afternoon, we opened the floor for questions from the audience, and this DU law professor named Andrew Reed stood up and would not sit down. He says, "Can't believe you people. Here you are, you talk about the rights of nature, you're talking like, nature is our relatives and everything. Have you ever heard of the Indians? Don't you know anything about what your Pope did in the 15th century? Have you ever heard of the doctrine of discovery?" And he stood up and lectured us for 20 minutes. Got my attention, and I took the microphone from him and apologized on behalf of all the Catholics everywhere, especially myself. And the Loretto community was so moved by that experience, and for most members it was a total shock, had never heard. These are history professors at the university level, theologians, never heard that Christian empire is a foundation of the degradation of nature and those peoples who have the most expertise in living in the natural world with respect. So I had a background in law. I had no idea that the U.S. Constitution has no provision for nature, except as property, slavery of nature, like slavery of African Americans and women, owned by others, more privileged. So there's just a real problem in the DNA of our country that directly relates to the doctrine of discovery. So we got a big problem on our hands. I want to thank you, John, for your tutelage. You may not have known it, but we used your published work to great effect. By July of 2012, the Loretto's General Assembly met and we adopted our resolution asking the Pope, at that time it was Pope Benedict, by the time we got our letter written and gathered other religious congregations around us to write their own letters and sent a packet off to the Pope, it was Pope Francis, and we share the hope that this is a leader of real spiritual depth who may respond. So I brought a packet for your record of the conference today with the Loretto press release as well as the letter to Pope Francis. And I also brought the Passionist International letter. It was about the same time. This was around the time of Thanksgiving last fall that we delivered our packet to Pope Francis through the mail. The Passionist International gathered a letter as well, or sent one letter and had various religious organizations at the United Nations sign on to their letters, basically in the same time frame. And what they specifically asked of Pope Francis is to show up at the September 2014 World Conference. And we know that's a problematic world conference because it's on indigenous people, but they're not the decision makers. That's not good. In any event, the Passionists maybe acted before that controversy emerged. They have given the Pope something specific and a date and a request to repudiate those papal bulls. So I think it would be very helpful for all of the friends who stand in solidarity with the Onondaga Nation and the indigenous peoples of the world to make that a hue and cry that rises throughout the whole planet. Please, Pope Francis, help us as Catholics grow up and accept this horrible truth about what we've done, what we've inherited, and what we need to do now.